The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and a warm welcome to all. I am Mitul Mishra on behalf of K Ratings. Welcome you to a live webinar on Credit FAQ, first ever consumer durable loan pool rating. K Ratings sincerely appreciate your time in joining us for this webinar. To take you further on this, may I introduce our speakers for today. We have with us Mr. T.N. Arun Kumar, Executive Director at K Ratings Limited. Mr. Arun Kumar, CFA FRM, has over 27 years of experience in credit rating and project appraisal and has extensive knowledge about functioning of the corporate sector. Our second speaker for today is Mr. Mitul Budhbhatti. Mitul, who is based out of our Mumbai office, is working with K Ratings as Associate Director. He has over 12 years of experience in credit ratings, having handled ratings across diverse industry segments, including large corporates, banks, FIs, urban local bodies, and MSMEs. I would like to inform our discussion will be in form of a presentation which is visible on your screen. In case of queries, please key in the questions in the slot provided. Our speakers would take the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. I repeat, we'll be having a Q&A session after the end of the presentation. You are requested to key in your questions in the slot provided. Now may I request Arun sir to begin the session.
Thanks, Mridul, and a very good afternoon to ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to CARE's webinar series. This topic to be presented today is interesting as it presents a first in time for rating agencies in India. CARE has been assigning ratings to securitization transactions for many years now, covering many asset classes, including auto pools, then loan against property, mortgages, microfinance loans, etc. But this is the first time a rating agency has assigned ratings to SPV backed by receivables of consumer good loans. These loans present some unique features which make them different and entail a different kind of analysis. Mitul would go on to explain the nuances of this unique asset pool and the way we have carried out credit analysis for the same. I would now request Mitul to explain the structure and the specific features of this transaction. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat box provided, which would be answered at the end of the presentation. I'm giving over to Mitul.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. We have divided the presentation into three parts. Firstly, we will discuss the transaction in detail, including its peculiar characteristics, the ratings assigned by CARE and the rationale for the same. Next, we will broadly discuss the methodology adopted for assessing the pool. And lastly, at an industry level, we will discuss how this asset class is different from the rest and the implications of this transaction on the securitization marketplace. Before we begin, just to give a snapshot of the securitization market volumes in India. So last 3 years have seen a rapid jump in the securitization transaction volumes, with PTCs and direct assignment volumes increasing. Overall, the share of MBS issuances in the total issuances has been gradually increasing as witnessed in the last 3 years. Now, we begin with the salient features of this transaction. As some of you may be aware, our press release, the pool comprised mobile phone receivables. Various financiers have deployed staff in the electronic retail store to talk to potential buyers and convert them into leads and finally borrowers. Thus, the consumer durable financing cycle involves close contact and continuous discussion with the borrowers. Since the decision has to be communicated directly to the consumer in an intensely competitive environment, the turnaround time is of essence. Several consumer durable lending companies have designed their own credit and disbursement software that process all transactions electronically and efficiently. In terms of the payout schedules, these loans have a dynamic payout schedule depending on the choice of the borrower. However, the repayment schedule for consumer durable loans is for a comparatively shorter tenor as compared to any vehicle or mortgage-backed loan. This is in sync with the total loan amount at risk and the rate of wear and tear and depreciation of consumer durables, more specifically mobile phones. Further, the cash flows for the pool comprise only principal dues. As a result, the credit enhancement for this transaction does not include any element of excess interest spread. The interest on the instruments issued against these receivables is paid out from the principal cash flows of the pool. Due to the pass-through status of the instruments, the maturity status of the instruments mirrors that of the underlying loan contracts. Since any pool comprises several small ticket size loans, the pool does not suffer any borrower-specific concentration risks. In the next slide, we discuss the ratings assigned to the instrument issued by the SPV housing the pool and the positive and the negative factors impacting the same. As you may be aware, the consumer durable loan receivables are assigned to a trust, and the trust has issued two sets of pass-through certificates. The Series A1 PTC comprises 90% of the pool principal, while the Series A2 PTC account for 3%. CARE has assigned a rating of Provisional CARE A-SO to the Series A1 PTCs and Provisional CARE BBB-SO to the Series A2 PTCs issued by the SPV. As is customary in securitization, the ratings assigned to the PTCs are provisional in nature, as the execution of transaction documents remains pending at the time of rating. The ratings are confirmed after CARE has assessed the copies of the executed legal documents in accordance with the structure provided in the term sheet. We further rely on due diligence audit report by an external auditor and an independent legal opinion to assign final ratings to the instruments. Moving on to the rationale for the rating. The rating is based on the credit quality of the underlying loans, the transaction structure, and the defined payment mechanism, support in the form of credit enhancement facility, and the sound legal structure of the transaction. The credit enhancement includes cash collateral and over collateral in this structure. Cash collateral will be divided into first loss facility and second loss facility. The second loss facility may be in the form of guarantee as per CARE's criteria. Series A2 PTCs are subordinated to Series A1 PTCs and thus acts as a credit enhancement for Series A1 PTCs. Over collateral is fully subordinated to both Series A1 and Series A2 PTCs. The key rating strengths of this transaction are availability of credit enhancement comprising of credit collateral of 5% of principal outstanding and over collateral of 7% of principal outstanding. High seasoning of around 3.8 months as compared to the weighted average initial tenor of 6.45 months. Pool amortization of nearly 66% as on cutoff date. No overdues in the pool as on the pool cutoff date. And geographical diversification with top state comprising around 20.6% of the pool. The key rating constraints include the limited performance track record of the originator in lending against consumer durables. On closer scrutiny of the credit enhancement in this structure, one would assess that the Series A1 PTCs has cumulative credit enhancement support of nearly 15% of the pool principal in the form of Series A2 PTC principal subordination, over collateral, and cash collateral. On the other hand, Series A2 PTCs continue to draw support from over collateral and cash collateral available for the transaction. Moving on, let us now look at the key aspects of the rating methodology adopted for the transaction. Similar to other securitization transactions, we closely examine the disbursements of the originating entity to draw any trend in growth pattern or any concentration of the disbursements towards any specific event or promotional offers launched by the entity. Another important determinant of our assessment of underlying pool is the vintage data for the business since inception. This dataset is essential as it provides an insight into how the company has performed in terms of collecting its past receivables. It is an indicator of the track record of the company's collection shortfalls in every disbursement set. It is different from the portfolio level delinquencies, as increasing disbursements and portfolio may understate the level of past delinquencies. The vintage data analysis gives a more detailed picture of the trend in delinquencies and pool behavior. Even after the pool is securitized, the originator continues to be responsible for collection of the dues of the pool. Hence, understanding the credit profile of the originator and any risk arising therefrom impacting the pool is critical. This is commonly referred as the servicer's risk with respect to the securitization transactions. The presence of the company at the ground level and its continuous interaction with the borrowers also affects the performance of the pool. We also look at various parameters that are captured by the company while lending money to any borrower. These include geographic, demographic, economic, product specific, loan specific, and credit profile based factors. We map pool distribution to the portfolio distribution and map the impact of these parameters and the distribution on the projected performance of the pool. We also study the portfolio and the pool for any concentration risk that may arise in the course of the pool. The profile of the borrower, that is whether the borrower is a salaried or self-employed, is one of the most significant factors in the above. The past credit history of the borrower is an input in our understanding of the likely future behavior of the borrower. Thus, our credit assessment of the pool is a comprehensive analysis that mirrors how loans of a similar nature have performed in the portfolio of the originator. Next, we look at how the features of consumer durables as an asset class are different from other asset classes. It is important to discuss this as this is India's first rated consumer durable pool securitization transaction. As discussed earlier, the cash flows of the pool comprise only principal dues. There is no interest element and the interest payouts to the investor are funded from principal cash flows. Secondly, unlike long-term obligation such as a housing loan that goes beyond 15 years or commercial vehicle and car loans that have a payout period of exceeding 3 years, this pool comprises loans that have a relatively shorter tenor. The payout to the investor are synced with the timetable of cash flow collections of the pool. For this asset class, the recovery of any overdues from repossession and sale of underlying asset is negligible. In any housing or asset-backed loan, the recovery from the sale of repossessed assets is factored in our credit assessment. This is unlikely to have any impact here due to limited tenor and rapid depreciation of the underlying assets. So what does this transaction mean for the securitization marketplace? As we have already stated, this transaction is a sign of deepening of the securitization industry. For NBFCs, this widens the choice of asset classes which can be securitized. Further, the nature of the asset is such that it could be an attractive proposition for investors looking for a shorter tenor paper. For originators, they can now look at securitizing consumer durable loans before the onset of their disbursement season and get access to relatively low cost source of funds. The difference between the payout period of the PTCs and the originator's preference was one reason why securitization market was unable to attract significant investment despite recent surge in liquidity flows in institutional investments. However, investors may be on watch mode and see the performance of first few pools before deciding their future course of action. With this, we conclude the webinar. We can now open the floor to questions.
Thank you, Mitul. Dear participant, now we'll be taking a break of 2 minutes before we come back to take your queries. You're requested to please start keying in your questions in the slot provided. I repeat, we'll be taking a break of 2 minutes before we begin our Q&A session. You are requested to please start keying in your questions. Thank you. Hi friends, we'll begin a Q&A session. The first question is from the line of Mr. Sankalp Bed. He is asking how different are the multiples for the question from the other asset classes. Mitul will take this query.
Hello, Sankalp. Thank you for asking the question. Uh, would like to inform that see multiples, as a policy, we don't give out the multiples on various transactions as a matter of policy. Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Mr. Animesh Singh. He is asking, does Care Ratings expect any further asset classes to be added to the securitization basket soon?
Thank you, Animesh. Any new asset classes that are likely to be securitized would have to fulfill two essential criteria. I mean, they need to meet the ALM preference of the investor and have a history of performance in the books of the originator. Rather, we expect variations in structures such as time crunching to become more popular than new asset classes attracting investors. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Mr. Janvi Sharma. She's asking which new investors do you expect to enter the market from the investors' end?
Yeah, thank you, Janvi. So, regulations permit provident and pension funds to invest in select PTCs. However, we haven't seen much action from them. After the tax issue for mutual funds, they have now returned to the market but with lesser enthusiasm than one would expect, given liquidity flows. We are positive that given good quality assets backing an appropriately rated paper, more investor classes such as HNIs and portfolio investors would be open to it. I hope that answers your question.
The next question is from the line of Mr. Shiv Kumar Kari. He's asking, in this structure, can one look to extend the tenor of the paper by replenishing the maturing assets with new ones?
Thank you, Shiv Kumar. See, presently under the RBI guidelines, the replenishment of the pool, with assets which have matured, that is not currently allowed under the guidelines. So that is something that will not happen.
The next question is from the line of Mr. Rishabh Das. He's asking, how would you assess the impact of demonetization on the performance of microfinance pool?
Thank you, Rishabh. We would answer this though the question is not strictly related to the subject being discussed today. The withdrawal of high denomination notes did impact the microfinance industry. The impact was felt more in certain pockets. However, the situation has since improved. Care rated pools were impacted but have since recovered. We are closely monitoring the situation in case of any remnant stress in impacted areas. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Mr. Shantanu Mittal. Is asking securitization was once seen as a means to gain access to PSL assets for the banks. Does it continue to remain so?
Thank you, Shantanu. So we have witnessed lower PSL securitization. It is a mix of two factors: the introduction of the PSL certificates and the swift traction and acceptance of instruments have received. The PSLCs have blunted the need for maintaining securitized PSL assets on books. Also, as institutional investors such as mutual funds have entered and interest rates have trended lower, non-PSL, which is usually higher yield paper, has become more desirable. Thank you.
I think you've answered all the queries which has come up. In case of any more queries, you are please requested to key in your questions, uh, or we'll be ending the session in some time. I think we'll take the last question of the day. It's coming from Jatin. He's asking how has the performance of the various asset classes been in care rated pools?
Yeah, thank you, Jatin. So, apart from some stress witnessed in the microfinance pools, I think all the other rated pools, the performance has been fairly stable. The pool performance reports can be found on CARE's website, which gives an idea of the performance. That's a quarterly report that is available. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitul. I think with this we are ending this session. Thanks again to all the participants for taking the time out and being a part of this care ratings webinar. We hope the discussion was insightful and look forward to your participation in future. For any feedback, suggestions, you're please welcome to write to us at cop.com@careratings.com. The email ID would be appearing in your info box. Goodbye for now.